Hello and welcome. If you've got a product you truly believe in, the dream is almost always to take it global. But that big dream comes with a really big challenge, figuring out the right price. So today, we're going to break down the essentials of export pricing and hopefully turn what feels like a complicated decision into a clear strategic advantage for you. So, you're ready. You're ready to take that leap. Your product is looking great, the quality is there, and you can just feel those international markets calling your name. But hold on. Before you ship even one item, there's one huge question that you've got to answer first.
And this really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What is the right price? You'll see pretty quickly that there's no simple formula you can just plug numbers into. It's more of a mix, a bit of art, a bit of science, and a whole lot of being aware of the market. Okay, let's dive right in.
First things first, and this is probably the single most important lesson in global sales. You don't operate in a bubble. Before you even start looking at your own spreadsheets and your own costs, you absolutely have to look outside to the market that you're trying to get into. This right here, this is the golden rule. I want you to really let that sink in. It doesn't matter how much it costs you to make your product or what you think it's worth. At the end of the day, the price of similar things already being sold in that country is what will ultimately decide what you can charge. Let's try to picture it this way. That existing market price, it creates a kind of price ceiling for you. It's the highest amount that customers over there are already used to paying for a product like yours. Trying to price your product above this ceiling is going to be incredibly tough, unless you're offering something that is just completely new and unique. Okay, so the market, it gives us the ceiling. Now let's build on that. We need to look at the other side of the equation, and that means looking at your own numbers. This is where we turn our focus inward, to your own business. So if the market sets the ceiling, then your total costs, well, they set the price floor. This is the absolute rock bottom price you have to charge just to cover all your expenses. In the long run, if you go below this floor, you're actually losing money on every single sale. So what exactly makes up this price floor? Well, it's pretty much everything. It's the cost to physically make your product, right? Then you've got all the expenses for marketing and actually getting it to your customer. And of course, you have to include a reasonable profit margin so your business can actually grow. This slide shows the whole challenge perfectly. Your ideal export price has to live somewhere in that space between your cost floor and the market ceiling. Finding that sweet spot, that's where success is. That's where you're both competitive in the market and you're also profitable. Now, finding that sweet spot, it isn't just about crunching numbers. The smartest exporters, they use pricing as a strategic tool. It's not just about covering your costs, it's about making something happen, achieving a specific business goal. I know this probably sounds a little crazy. We just established that your costs are your price floor, right? So why on earth would a smart business ever choose to sell below that floor? Well, believe it or not, in some very specific situations, it can be a really powerful short-term move. Here are a few solid reasons. You might price really low just to get your foot in the door of a new market and win over your first customers. Or maybe you need to clear out some old inventory fast. It could even be a temporary tactic to respond to something a competitor is doing. The key thing to remember is that this is always a deliberate, short-term strategy with a very specific goal. Of course, when you're selling across borders, there's another huge factor that's completely out of your hands: the constant shifting of currency values. This is something that can turn a really profitable sale into a loss, sometimes overnight. So, to put it simply, the exchange rate is just the price of one currency compared to another. Now, if you price your products in, say, US dollars, but all your costs are in Indian rupees, any change in that rate is going to directly affect your profit margin when you bring that money back home. So, how do you protect yourself from that risk? Well, one of the most common tools is what's called a forward contract. The best way to think about it is like you're locking in an exchange rate today for a transaction that's going to happen in the future. It just removes all that uncertainty and it makes sure that the profit you think you're making today is the profit you actually get tomorrow. So as we start to wrap this up, let's just bring it all back together. Success in the global market isn't about finding one single perfect price. It's really about maintaining this constant strategic balance between your internal costs, the realities of the market outside, and your own business goals. So, know your numbers, always respect the market, and be smart with your strategy. At the end of the day, your product has a story to tell. And believe me, its price is a huge part of that story. The only question left is, what story are you going to tell the world?